Yep. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of The Psychic Wives. I'm Ginger Hendry.
I'm Kathy Rumsey.
I'm Geri.
And I'm Julianne Gadziala.
Yes, we have
Yay!
Julianne back. Yay, again. Julianne's been with us before, and today she is coming on to be a guest wife. So we're just going to really be chatting today and just sharing kind of where we are with things and maybe some tips that we can give you all along your journey. Really kind of what comes up. We're kind of almost like sitting around in the living room having a cup of coffee together. So
And I refer to it as, and I can say this because I put an E on it, we're just going to sit here and shoot the shit.
yes, which we always enjoy doing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So let's just start kind of where everybody is. I mean, Julianne hasn't been on in a little bit, and we haven't really talked, the three of us, kind of where we are in a long while. And so I thought that might be helpful too, just to say kind of where we are on our journey, because we are all evolving, right? And we kind of go with the flow. So I don't know, Geri, do you want to start? Or?
Yeah, I have been busy lately, and loving it. I did a summit with was Tammy on our podcast ever?
Yes.
Yes, she was.
Yeah.
So if you go to the psychicwives.com, you'll see our guest page. Julianne's on there. A bunch of other people are on there. But I did a summit recently with Tammy Master Birdie. She's on there. She wrote a book. We had her on talking about that. And it was so much fun. Because she did like a little mini interview, and then I did live readings for like an hour and a half. And it's a really cool thing. She does this Elevated Existence Summit every year. So next year around January, February, look for it because it goes for like 3 months, and she's got a ton of guests on there, and you get you get a chance to get live readings like every week. And then you get discounts on a whole bunch of stuff. So been busy with that. And it's just been a lot of fun because I offered a half-hour reading of whatever you want. So when somebody books, we get on the phone. I have like 4 today. When we're done here, and you get on the phone and I just say, what do you want? You know what I mean? And sometimes it's, I want an animal reading. And sometimes it's, I want an intuitive reading, and sometimes, hey, can you connect with my grandma who's in spirit? And sometimes it's like a combination of all. So I'm really having a good time, kind of just flying by the seat of my pants with all that. We're just like, whatever, but it's kind of been a really fun experience. I've also been doing some past life regression sessions. Kathy and I had done years ago, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, I don't remember, had gone up to the Omega Institute in New York and done training with Dr. Brian Weiss, which was super cool. So I've been having more and more fun with that. I've been doing it over the phone, but I think I'm going to start doing it over Zoom because I had a really good conversation with somebody about how much more beneficial that can be. So yeah, busy and really kind of enjoying going here and here and like a little bit of everything. So that's been really.
Can you just take 1 minute, Geri? Because at the beginning we have introduced ourselves when we first started, and we were all doing animal communication, and we were reaching out in different ways. And so our businesses over the last even 3 years has kind of changed direction. So now, just quickly, like, what services do you offer?
Okay, animal communication, psychic mediumship. Yes, I call it psychic mediumship for a reason, because sometimes it's coming in psychically, sometimes it's coming in mediumistically, and I don't even know if that's a word, but I use that word. So psychic mediumship. I do psychic intuitive, kind of like life coaching. Somebody will come in and, hey, I've got this issue, and I'll intuitively or psychically help them work through that. And then I do the past life regression sessions, which are really super cool. Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
So,
who's next?
Well, I wanted to ask Kathy, because Kathy has gone in a different direction as well. Still has the core business, but because of some of the classes that she has taken, right? And some of the leanings have really sent you in a different direction than when we first started. Even though
Yeah.
you knew that was going to be, but I mean, it's really kind of
Yeah.
the energies behind it.
So I'm still doing animal communication and intuitive life coaching, dabbling a little in equine coaching. So using my horse in the coaching process, in the intuitive coaching process, because horses are just such awesome healers. I've been very quiet lately. I've had my own stuff going on with my mental, emotional health, and did a psilocybin journey earlier this year that really kind of forced me to take some downtime after to process and integrate the journey. And I'm coming out of it and on the other side and feeling great. And it's so interesting how the universe works, where my readings have picked up again. So
Yeah.
It feels good to be back and doing readings. And if the mud ever goes away, I may do another workshop with the horse.
Good. Yeah. And Julianne, you have a lot more experience, right? A lot more years, but I see a cattail.
That's a kitten tail.
A kitten tail. We love cats. But you have a wide breadth of things and a lot of teaching, which is awesome because I've taken classes with you, learned a lot from you. So, I guess maybe if you start with what the different things are you do, and then maybe just same thing, how you have morphed some over the last few years, because that's part of the journey. That is the journey, right?
It is a morphing. It is the journey. For me, I had run a metaphysical center for 9 years, a brick and mortar, and did in-person readings and had so much fun. Ginger was part of that fun.
Yeah.
And after COVID, when I went into the cloud, and it became a whole different journey with learning about Zoom, and it became a worldwide reach. And I since sold that entity and was sort of starting over. And I'm like, I just want to see what I'm going to do with me. Everybody has that point, I think, sometimes where you just sort of do a recalculation, a reset. Is my practice going where I want to be? Am I doing? And I love the teaching aspect. And I started doing more. I work with psychic development, mediumship, channeling. I do a lot of work with spiritual business building with people. And I'm at a point where I hope holding mentorships. I have 2 of them starting in June, one for channeling development, 6-month mentorship, and another one for psychic development, where there's a lot of one-on-one. And I'm also in the process of launching my new company, my new business, which is under my spiritualwing.com, that I'm going to group all my classes and all my education under and guide people to some other teachers and classes. And it's really just about a platform for learning. So I'm having fun learning about, starting fresh, doing some of that. And so that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, we all have changed. I mean, when we started this, I was primarily, doing a lot of animal communication. I still am. That's kind of my core. But as you get into this kind of work, and the work itself morphs. So then I started working with people. Same thing, doing intuitive coaching and whatnot. And then people started to pop up in my animal communication readings, and so I have moved on to the mediumship path, which has been awesome. As well. And recently, the last couple of years, been teaching. And I just did a class this weekend, and I rewrote from scratch the course. And it went over. I was so thrilled by the end of the second day. I can't even tell. I felt like I was high. I felt
awesome.
out of there. I just had a ball. And so I am going to be looking at doing more teaching as well, because I just love when you just see that light go on for somebody, like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I understand it. And so that's been great for me. And the podcast, we're still, we're 3 years in, over 3 years in.
Yeah.
To the
Isn't that a
podcast.
wonderful feeling though when you rewrite?
Yes.
I did that recently with one of my channeling. And I'm like, I could do this same material. I have it written, but I want to make a splash. And I'll tell you, Ginger, one of the things that's been helpful with that is ChatGPT.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm teaching a class, ChatGPT for practitioners with
I'm
Renee
in
and
that.
Paul.
I signed up.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great about how this AI technology can help us present ourselves sometimes in a different way, give different ideas, and it's cutting edge. It's really an exciting time.
Interesting.
You know, if people are feeling like they're a little, well, it's not even being stale. I think sometimes we just want to change. You want to say something different, but you look at it for me and the same words come out. I'm like, well, this is how I say it.
Right.
And if I can put it in this mix and have this assistant go, oh, but you could say it this way. Did you think about that? And it's like, oh,
Right.
and then
Right.
it gets me thinking in a new direction,
That's
and it
what
gets me
exactly what I found.
writing in a new direction, and
Yeah.
then it can help me form my words, but it like wakes me up to say, oh, you know, I really should think about it in this way. And you probably have the same experience with your
I
class
had
when
the
you start
same experience.
reawakening.
I was talking to somebody who has done some teaching, and she said that's real teaching when it is coming from you. You're not taking necessarily somebody else's material or somebody else's outline or that kind of thing. And although the class was mine, it really was kind of more standard outline of how I learned. And when I really sat down to try to redo everything, I thought, well, I learned it that way, but that's not how I'm doing it.
Exactly. I'm glad you said that because
Yeah.
so we've all kind of grown and added and moved in different directions and stuff like that. But we've also, within our actual sessions or readings with people, like are doing it, we may be doing it completely differently than how we were taught. It's morphed into like our own way, like sort of like what I was saying before, when somebody gets on the phone, I'm like, what are we doing today?
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that's been a really cool thing for me because I'm just, I think it's almost making me more open because I'm not coming in saying, okay, I'm doing an animal reading. I'm coming in like, okay, everybody here, let's go. Do you know what I mean? Like, what are we doing today? So yeah, just
What's in the best and highest good for this person?
exactly. What is
Right.
the greatest and highest good? And I think we've all run into that where like I've gotten someone, I don't really know what I want. And I'm like, oh, I do. Like all of a sudden, like, oh, here we go. I'm pushed in a direction. And some people are super cool. I have returning clients like that they're like, you tell me.
Right.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, okay, hold on. And
Right.
and I think I love that. So even within our sessions, we've all
Well, and I like that the fact, especially when you build a network like we're doing here, right? That somebody can say something and you think, oh my, I never thought of it that way. And Julian, you did this for me, and I know this will sound small, but it really was a big thing for me at the time. I was late to Julian's first class because I was at the wrong location. So when I came in, everybody was already doing their intuitive thing. So I literally sat down and like 3 minutes later, it was my turn. There was no time, and I didn't know anybody in the room. They weren't, kind of the people that I networked with. And Julia made it very, very safe, very, safe and fun and whatever. So I was able to jump in. So sort of towards the end of that class, she said, Ginger could do an animal communication reading, who has pictures? And I said, oh, I don't read from pictures. And I remember you saying, what do you mean you don't read from pictures? I'm like, I don't know. That's how I learn. And she said, well, you can read from pictures. And I was like completely frozen. And she said, you're psychic. You can read. And so I never looked at a picture before. So I did. I got up, I saw a picture and did a quick reading, and it all went. And I sat down and I was kind of laughing to myself thinking, of course I can do it. But it just didn't occur to me because I had learned a certain way. So that one thing just sort of really opened up for me to say there's tons of different ways. I need to find my own way and not be so regimented to what other people tell me. And I tell my clients that too. If you're going to study with somebody and they're telling you, no, you need to do it this way, don't study with them.
Well, you bring in mediumship, Ginger. I've had that same experience where I create a room because I went to Arthur Finley, like others have, and in England. So I created a tea room in my mind. And I sit down, and when I do mediumship, I first tell people I go to this tea room, and rather than sitting and seeing who jumps in, I said, I always anchor from, we invite someone in and they're going to have tea with me. Who would you like me to invite in?
Mhm.
And so and sometimes they push the tea off the table and they wanted a scotch or they wanted beer. But that is totally against everything I was taught.
Right. That you don't specifically ask for one
Right,
person.
go directly. But I'm saying, who would you like me? And I said, I'll tell everybody this isn't about favorites. They're here, they're hearing it. But who can anchor us? And they
Right.
immediately come in.
Right.
Mhm.
But that is against all the
Right.
spiritualist mediumship training I had.
Yes.
Yeah.
So to your point, we adapt.
We adapt and we find out how it works for us. And when I'm teaching animal communication, one thing we didn't used to do was spend a lot of time on how you work. It was like giving examples of, hey, you can try this and you can try this. And I really, through my animal communication classes, tell them, you're not wrong. You're just trying to figure out how your intuition works. And sometimes it comes in a symbol, and maybe your understanding of the symbol isn't right now. But as you continue and you keep seeing that same symbol or that same feeling or whatever come up, that's how you get it. Now, I could see the same thing, doesn't mean the same thing to me. So don't measure yourself that way. Or
Yeah, I think that's when everybody really kind of takes off, because it's almost like when we're starting to take a class from somebody or whatever. I know I can be very like, okay, what's step one? What's
yes,
step two?
me
What's step
too.
three? You know what I mean? We've talked about this before. But then once you it's almost like you give yourself permission to not do it exactly the way somebody did it. And then it's like, oh, it like you're like totally free
Right.
when you realize that you don't have to. I tell people all the time that, yeah, go take classes, go take classes, go take classes, and just keep adding to your toolbox. But know exactly what you said. I don't have to go and do it the exact Ginger way. That's my
Right.
starting point. That's my, and now, this piece that she gave me doesn't quite work right for me. You know what I
Right.
mean? I also had a bunch of sessions last week and people were like, hey, I want to start growing my intuition, and I want to, but a lot of people were stuck on, oh no, I'm clairvoyant.
Right.
Just only clairvoyant, like this. And I said, well, don't do yourself a disservice, and recognize, at least at first, you're getting it the way you're best able to get it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like we all receive it in different ways. We've talked about this a million times about the hearing. I do not hear words. I do not hear words, but I see them because I'm a writer. So that's logical to me. I see words and I might see like bold all caps, or I might see little. And so that adds to the information. And so when I tell people that, they're like, oh my God. And I said, so don't just pigeonhole yourself in one way. Set an intention before and say, give it to me the best way possible, or whatever,
Right.
And you might realize that you're moving in a different direction or opening up even more.
Well, it was really interesting. This past weekend, I had two students that were deaf, and I've not ever taught that way. And so we had interpreters. And as we are sharing information, I had this thought, do they hear? Do they see words?
Oh, wow.
What's the difference? And so I was very comfortable, and they were, there was no, whatever. And it was so interesting because one of the women said, I hear music. And she said, I know that sounds funny because I don't hear,
Right.
but I know that there's music, and I know I'm hearing it. I can't describe it in a different way. And then she said, I can feel music. If somebody plays it loud enough, I can feel, so I understand like the flow of music. So it was so
That's
interesting.
a really great question. Like I didn't even think of that until you said it.
Yeah.
And were these people, I don't know, men, women?
I had one man and one woman. Yeah.
Have they been deaf since birth?
I believe so. Yeah.
Interesting.
And it was so funny because, how we do the exercises about reading the animals and whatnot, and sometimes reading an animal that you don't know what it is and how much fun, that can be.
How much fun.
I know, I think it's fun. And so at the end, that was sort of towards the end of the second day. the interpreters, when I was coming around to show them who they had read, the interpreters were like, come over here, come over here. And then one goes, oh, I think I got that. You know, they were kind of really getting into it. So
That's
it's really
awesome.
fun. And to the same point, like you really just have to be open and allow yourself to see things differently to expand and grow. I mean,
Yeah. And you can't, you can't, a part of that openness, and I talk about this all the time. We say this a lot, probably, is, you know, sometimes when you're teaching, somebody will be like, I'm trying. And I always say,
yes.
stop that. Stop trying. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Because when we're trying, we're more in the, I'm trying to do it the exact way that I'm supposed to do it. When we're allowing, it happens the way it's supposed to happen. Do you know what I
Well,
mean?
it's just so interesting. I mean, I had a student and she said, I see a lot in colors. We had this whole discussion about colors. And I said, I don't. I see a picture and I can tell you how green the grass is, but it doesn't mean anything to me. It's grass, you know what I mean? So she said, no, I can see, like, I see this. She was doing a reading on a cat. I see this cat and I see pink around the cat. And so to me, pink is blah, blah. And we had a whole
Yeah.
discussion about, okay, so pink is this to you, but it might not be to somebody else.
Yes.
So then all of a sudden it popped in my head. I said, well, does pink mean the same thing to the cat? And she was like, I don't know. And I said,
Right.
well, next time you see a color, ask the cat. This is pink to me means this. Is that what you're trying to convey? And she said, I never thought of that. Of course, I never thought of that because I don't see that way.
Yeah.
So, you know, sharing information. Julian, you must find this all the time because you've done so much teaching. It must be so fun to
Well, it is, and I find, like anything else, some people are more inclined that way. Some
Yeah.
people, they always see the colors, and then
Yeah.
people feel like shortchanged that they don't.
right.
You know, and
Yeah.
it's all about us. And the same thing with I'm clairvoyant, clairsentient, you know.
Oh, I wish
the more
I could do it that way.
Mm.
You know, just be grateful for the way you do it.
And
Right.
that you opened up your teaching to have an interpreter there. That's beautiful. Was that an in-person class?
In person. Yeah.
I have a client to send you if you do another one and you have an interpreter. She would
Yeah.
love you.
I'll let you know. We had a ball.
Yeah.
Um,
So I think that the more we start opening up now to different clairs, to different sensings, a different way of teaching, whether AI sparks something for you, whether it's, I'll tell you what's changing for me. I am looking forward tomorrow to having an organizer come and organize my office / bedroom, hint, hint. You know, I have a 3-bedroom house. You'd think I could go work in another room, but the energy and the sun and the feng shui and everything is in this one particular corner. Fortunately, our bedroom is big enough, but it's not working for me. And the closets club up. And I have gone for a facial to this woman I love. I go to her every month, and she has this tiny, cluttered nightmare of an office, and I love her. Well, don't you know that she hired this organizer? I walked in, it was like, woo! It was like, this is a total spa, and it's a small room.
Yep.
But the organizer had organized her. It's the Neat and Tidy Space. This is the name of the woman who runs it, and I believe they're in Salem, New Hampshire. So she had come in, done an initial, and she came back with all the little bins, everything labeled, reorganized.
Wow.
Took her wall-to-wall floor up in her office, put a throw rug, and it was like, it changed the facial. All of a sudden, it became like a Zen facial.
And you can feel that. You can feel that.
I told her, I said, this is so different.
Yeah.
You know, and so she's coming tomorrow. I'm so excited. So when I get off of here, I have to rip all the stuff I need to get rid of.
Oh my God.
So you have to do a bunch of work first before she comes in.
Yeah, or you can pay, or you can pay twice as much
She'll
time,
do
and they'll do it for you. And I'm like, no.
But Julianne, take before and after pictures.
Yeah.
I would love to see it.
I will. She took some before, and she doesn't let you clean before she comes the first time. She's like, I need to see what you're working in.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
But to the point of this being important to me, I think that for everybody, when we look at the space around us, I mean, if you're a professional reader or healer, the space you're working in, but even with your family, if you've got cross communication and you're finding, like, you know, this is always, the cross communication always goes on in the living room, or it's always here, or it's always there. If you take a minute and say, I'm going to change this energy up, I may not hire Neat and Tidy Space, I can figure this out myself. And in the traditional feng shui way, you move everything around.
Yep.
You change what you open the silverware drawer and you put different, the knives go in a new slot, the spoons go in a new slot, the pans are in this cabinet, that maybe the kitchen is a hotbed, kitchens
Yeah.
retain heat, but that also invites a hotbed sometimes for emotions.
Mhm.
So I believe it's important that we change, like the kitchen up. I'm consciously every week I'm changing stuff in my kitchen. And
Yep.
it doesn't have to
Wow.
be a big change. It can
Yeah.
be how the cans are arranged or how this is arranged, but you're moving the energy in
Right.
that room, opening up the closets. It's good once a week to leave all your kitchen cabinets open. Let them
Right.
breathe for a day. Just
Mhm.
leave them all open. Let the chi energies flow through them, and we're, send your own light through them.
Right.
So I always, and if you've got a child, you've got a kid that's in turmoil, which is more and more since the pandemic, go into their room with them and find ways that you can do some of that movement.
Mhm.
If they need all their drawers open and their closets open, maybe they need their own energy moving. Maybe they need to do a sorting project with you. But I think the more we get our space clear, the clearer we become.
Mm.
Well, it's so interesting because I think I told Kathy and Geri this a while ago, but when I was pet sitting, I had a client that I did, and she had like a small farmhouse. And I love the house, love the cats and whatnot. But this one day I stepped in, you come in through the entryway and step into the kitchen. And all of a sudden I felt like I was breathing more deeply. I'm looking around. I couldn't quite tell. I felt like there was things in the kitchen maybe that had been moved. So anyway, I did my thing, and then I went into the front room, the living room, which is where the cats would come and visit, and it was all different. They had taken out furniture. There was new furniture there. They had new curtains. They had they did this whole thing. I felt it from the
Yeah.
kitchen.
Yeah.
Physically, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So
You know
yeah,
what's
I
you know what's
love that.
interesting about when we're talking about space? So I have an office here. It's one of the bedrooms in my house is my office, and I have a desk here and a desk here and blah blah blah. On the other side of the house, I have a gorgeous sunroom. Really tall windows on 3 sides. It's off of our bedroom. Um, I've got a comfy sofa on one side, or love seat on one side. I've got a moon pod on the other. I don't know if you know a moon pod, but it's like today's beanbag chair, and it's so comfortable.
Oh.
Moon pod. And in between, there's like a coffee table, and there's like there's crystals on it and a candle on it, and da da da. And that is like my total Zen space. I can't do readings in there. Like I'm not at my best when I'm doing a reading in there, but I'm at my best when I'm doing a reading in here. So I think it's like, to me, it's like, no, that's personal space or something. Because you'd think that over there, it's not that I can't, but when I'm over there and I'm like, God, I'm a little uncomfortable because I've tried it.
It's
And
crossing a
in the
boundary
middle,
for
I'm
you.
like back over here to like do
Yeah.
it, because you would think. But I guess there's some separation, and I guess it's a balance thing with me. Like,
Well
that's
done that you
my
honor
space.
that.
That's my personal altar space.
Yeah.
See, I'm the exact opposite. I have a hard time, but my office is, I have big furniture in a small space. I moved from a house to a condo, and I have the same furniture, and I don't need it all. And I have not been able to figure out like.
Oh, you need to have Melissa come.
I know.
Just on her free initial consult,
Yep.
she moved all the furniture around in my room. The dressers, this one's going out here. You can't breathe. I can't. And I was like, why didn't I see it?
I know.
We can't always see it for ourselves the way someone else can.
Right.
And if we're living in it, I don't, we're living in
But Geri, you honor your boundaries. That's great.
Yeah.
And I just, because when I'm with a client, obviously I want to give my best. I want to give my best that I possibly can. So I'm not giving my best to a client over there, but I am giving my best to me over there.
But understand,
meditating, reading, whatever. Yeah.
The transactional nature of a client relationship, no matter how zen it is, nice it is, deep it is, there is a transactional component to it.
Right.
And for you to not want to bring that energy into your calming space, Geri, everybody can take a lesson from that.
I guess that's what it is. But it's really interesting because I hadn't really I mean, I thought about it before, but I didn't think about it like, I guess that is a boundary or something. So kind of cool.
Yeah, it
Cool.
is. So, we've been talking now for a half an hour about kind of how we've morphed or changed or kind of where we're leaning. I know everybody that listens is really in the same position based on whatever's going on in their life too. So do we have any tips, do you think, that would be helpful for
You know what? I always
for
say the
people?
same tip. Hello,
Oh,
kitty.
I love
Oh,
calicos.
me too.
Oh, look at that face. I always say that
I saw the tail.
one thing that I always say to people when they're starting off doing this stuff is always say whatever information you receive. In other words, I've done it. A quick example, may have talked about this years ago or whatever, but I was reading for somebody. I was reading their cat, and their cat was in the process of transitioning. Hi, Pumpkin.
What a beauty.
Their cat was in the process of transitioning. So I was just telling them how the cat was feeling and what the cat was showing me. And the cat showed me a dead mouse. And I was sitting there saying, oh no, I'm not going to say that, because that's got to be me, because a dead mouse, a cat, that's too obvious or something like that. And so I kind of brushed past it a little bit, but then I went back and I said, no, okay, I'm seeing this dead mouse. And so I just said, okay, I don't know if this is me like kind of clouding it or getting in the way, like Geri getting in the way of the information or whatever, but I'm seeing a dead mouse. And they said, no, the other cat brought the dying cat a dead mouse.
Oh,
So
nice.
that was there was like some kind of
Aw.
validation. Do you know what I mean? But if I hadn't have said that, I would have missed an important piece. So my advice to everybody is whatever you get, say it. If you have to, and I still to this day do this, I'll say, hey, full transparency here. I don't know if this is coming, like, for example, a dog. If somebody says, oh, it gives me the breed of the dog, and they're reading a German Shepherd or a German Shorthair Pointer, I know that breed, those breeds really, really well. Do you know what I mean? So if I'm getting something that's really obvious that like a GSP would do or a Shepherd would do, I might say, okay, I don't know if this is me, full transparency, but this is what's coming in. Do you know what I mean? So it's like kind of gets me off the hook for, because I'm just being honest. It could be me, but if it's coming in, I'm saying it.
Mhm.
So that's kind of a tip that I would say to everybody. If it's coming in, and say it,
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Like if you're
My tip
the
would be
cat's meowing really loudly. Well, I don't want to say that. Well, maybe they have a cat that meows really loudly, say it.
Right.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Julian?
I was going to say, well, I was just going to give another tip, which is really to trust which piggybacks on yours.
Yeah.
Which is trusting. You're saying really trust. I'm a vessel. I'm receiving. I'm going to give you what I'm receiving. I may or may not understand it, but your interpretation, your understanding is what's most important, which was going to piggyback into my tip, which is trust your intuition.
Mhm.
People, particularly people that have jobs and are trained in their left brain, they feel that they're very much oriented that way. Those are some of the strongest intuitives.
Yeah. But
that's something about that.
Yeah.
And you really have to trust that, if I taught that to my son. That was a big lesson, when he was going off to college. It's like, you need to trust your intuition.
Yeah.
I don't care if everybody's piling into this car and your gut says this isn't a good decision. You need to trust it.
Yes.
It's not about it. And I
What
think
an amazing thing for a mother to say to a son or daughter, whatever.
Yeah.
That's a great thing to say.
Well, and then thank you. You allow them to honor their own inner trusting system at a point in their life where it's all being shut down.
Yeah.
Right.
The educational system is not welcoming to our intuition.
Mhm.
So and the more you can take classes or listen to YouTubes or read books, in whatever way nourish yourself that strengthens your ability to trust yourself, that's it.
And I want to add one more piggyback on that.
Yeah.
I think the reason a lot of people don't trust themselves is I need to get it right. I need to get it right. I need to get it right.
Oh, that
So
perfectionism.
so it's like, I can't trust that that's right. So I'm not going to say it. So little tip for me before every reading, in my prayer / intention, I ask God, Spirit, Universe to help me release any attachment to ego or outcome.
I do the same.
You know what I mean? In other words, just give it to me.
That's
I'm
beautiful
taking
tip.
away that attachment so I don't get caught up in, but what if I'm right? What if I'm right? Or I need to be right. I need to be right. Yeah.
Well, that speaks to, on that point, why I think that's so important. People sometimes find it, particularly new readers, and I know there's an excitement level because you're so excited that you're receiving information, but the egoic can want to say sometimes things that need filters. So, and my big deal is don't re-traumatize your client. You know, I may see something vividly, which was disruptive, disturbing, painful, whatever to a client. It's enough for me to reach over and touch their hand or just say to them, I see that there's been a lot of pain around this in your past.
Yeah.
But I've worked with readers that will say, oh, I can see boom, 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 boom. And it's like,
Right.
Yeah.
like, don't re-traumatize, like
Yeah.
learn to,
That's
your
key.
words are everything.
Huge.
And I believe as a parent, our words are everything. I believe as a reader, our words are everything. As a sibling, a partner. I think that it's basically saying to source, allow the correct words. When we're feeling like we want to be reactive, taking that quick second to say, give me the correct words.
Yeah. Show it to me.
Allow
in
my
a different way.
words
Give it
to
to
be
yeah.
kinder,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. That's great. That's a brilliant. Kathy, what tip do you have?
I'm gonna go back. My tip would be something that you touched on earlier in our conversation, which is allow, don't try. Like as soon as you get some information and like, oh, let me see if I can get, more about this. And as soon as you start trying, your energy shifts, you're in your left side, you're in the, your
Absolutely.
intuitive side of your brain stops working and everything goes away. So
yeah. And I think that trying is related to ego as well.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I gotta try to
I gotta
do
get
this.
this. Yeah.
And I don't think before you start to do this work, anybody really thinks about the difference between trying and allowing. And we've all grown up in a society to try, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it can be pretty difficult for some of you. I just sit here. Yeah, just sit there. Like just sit there and
Let
wait.
it come. Right.
Let it come. Perfect tip.
I have two tips, but one is because we've been talking now the last few minutes about people that are actually going to do this work, right? Or are doing this work. So, in that case, I'll piggyback on saying what comes up, and I'll just give a quick example. When I had this class this weekend, we were reading a cat, and two of the people, because I had a whole conversation, say what comes through, even if you think it's crazy, it might, same thing, somebody might understand it. So we're reading this cat, and then one person said, gave the information, then said, I don't know why, but I'm seeing rabbit ears. I see a rabbit, I'm just going to say it because you told me to say it, and whatever. And then the person, like two people down, which was one of the deaf students, he gives his information on the cat, and then he said, and he's laughing, he said, I see Batman. And he's doing the mask with his face, and we're all laughing. I'm not laughing for the same reason, because at the end I say, okay, well, the animal that you were reading has a rabbit in the house. So the animal was showing her a rabbit. She wasn't reading the rabbit, but she just threw it out there. And the person who was talking about Batman, it was the cat we were reading's sibling, littermate.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
So when you get those little hits, people like, oh my God, that would have been a crazy thing to say, but it feeds their intuition. But the other thing, I had a whole conversation with everybody, is we are so used to thinking we get information because we heard it, because we read it, because we saw it with our eyes. We're all getting information all the time, in ways that we think that we're getting it traditionally, let's say. And when you slow down and you start to really pay attention, you may find, and you likely will find, okay, that wasn't something I saw with my eye. I saw it with my mind's eye. or I heard that, I thought it was, like a memory, but no, now I'm getting that same like message or whatever at a different time. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah.
if you're not doing this work, you're not going to do readings. We're all still intuitive beings. Just be open to see or understand that you're getting information, and it's not traditionally always the case.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's great. How about funny ones? Let's each do one quick funny one. Any
I'm
reading?
first. I can't. I haven't had any funny ones lately.
Okay, this one, I'll start. This one was, and I may have talked about this again. I always talk about this. Haven't talked about it in a while because it was hysterical. So I'm reading for a gentleman who had a guinea pig, and the guinea pig had passed. First time I've read a guinea pig. I'm not even sure if I've read another one. But anyway, the guinea pig had passed. So we had gone through the whole thing, and we had asked, all these questions or whatever. And he said, the client, the gentleman said, could you ask him what his favorite thing to do was? And I'm like, okay. So I'm, you're expecting the wheel or like, the little thing they go on. For anybody who, and I'm dating myself here for sure, Toonces the driving cat from Saturday Night Live.
Our favorite
He's
sketch.
showing me Toonces the driving cat. And I'm like, for those of you who don't know this, there was a character, Saturday Night Live, they did a skit and it was called Toonces the driving cat. It was a cat that was driving around and causing mayhem or whatever. And I was like, oh God, like that, what the hell, And this was one of those things, like, I don't want to say this, but I said, I don't know what the heck he's saying, but he's showing me Toonces the driving cat. And the client started cracking up and he said, yeah, he'd love that. I would take him in the car and he would sit on my lap and he would put his little paws on the steering wheel. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I just thought that was the funniest thing. First of all, him taking him in the car, but then giving it to me as Toonces the driving cat. You know what I mean? As opposed to showing me a steering wheel or something like that. Anyway, I thought it was funny. Who's next?
Well, I don't know if it's funny, but you made me, that brought recall to me of reading that I did where I saw this vivid vision of because it was a mediumship and I asked to go back in the memory, and all I saw was from the Wizard of Oz, where the four of them are joined and it's Follow the Yellow Brick Road, and they're all like the Tin Man and everybody, and their arms are linked, and it's kind of Follow the Yellow Brick Road. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna say it. Maybe they loved watching that. And so I said, they're showing me this scene of that. And she's like, she laughed, she's like, that's all I wanted to see. I go, why? And she said, that was the favorite. We would dress up for Halloween.
Aww.
And this was the last Halloween that he saw us. And we were dressed up as the Wizard of Oz.
Oh, that's so cool.
And they even had a little, I don't know, one of those little terrier dogs in a basket, apparently. But it was like, part of me.
Doesn't it make you feel so good?
Yeah.
When you are able to give somebody something like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
That goes back to what we said. Always say what you get, because it could mean everything to the client. It could mean everything. That's beautiful. That gave me chills. I love that.
And Geri, I forget sometimes, or I think I had gotten lazy about it, about thanking spirit.
Oh, yes.
Because, you get on a roll, you're doing a lot of readings, blah, 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 blah. Great, client's happy. I'm focused on the client, great. I had to remind myself recently to be, show that gratitude to spirit before clicking off.
Yeah.
Very subtle, because they can choose to work with us or not.
Right.
I mean, I've had times where nothing, boom.
Yeah, really.
And generally when that happens, it's about me.
Yes.
It's about, I'm not rested enough. I'm not tuned in enough. My mind was elsewhere. I've got a busy day. And it doesn't happen that often. It's occasionally, but I'm human. We're all human.
Yeah.
So usually when that'll happen, I'll reschedule someone if I don't feel I can be like, I'll be like, all of this is going on around me. Would you mind if we move this till tomorrow?
Yeah.
But they just will like blank screen.
Wow.
I'll be like, okay.
Yeah.
Has anyone had that happen where nothing comes through?
I've had it happen, not where nothing comes through, but to the point where it's like, it's not there, it's not there, it's not there. And then I start to panic because it's not coming through. So I have to say, okay, you know what? I need to take a few minutes here. So just hang on.
Yeah.
And then go like, I've gone into the other room and like, "La, la, 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 la." You know what I mean? Just to like shake off whatever the heck is coming, come back in, regrounded, and then okay.
Yeah.
You know, but nothing at all. And I think because I was able to stop the panic, because it was panic.
Yeah.
Because I should have just done what you said. Like, you know what? Let's reschedule this, because I'm not in the place that I need to be. That was probably the wrong thing for me to do. I probably should have done it your way.
Well, I learned that over time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and sometimes I've actually canceled the whole afternoon, and I'll just send an email out and say, I'm not in the space to be 100% there today.
Yeah.
I apologize. And each week I leave room in my schedule to have one full day that if I ever have to move anything, if anything happens.
Yeah.
But, I was nervous before I did that the first time. It doesn't happen that often,
Right.
but I've allowed that to myself. I've allowed me to respect my human.
But also I've got to imagine if I was a client and that I would be like, yeah, I want you to be on your best. I want you to be top notch, So if you're feeling you aren't, I don't want to say, yeah, okay, whatever. We'll just give it a try. And if it works, it works. I would prefer that. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can I go off topic for a moment?
Sure.
For the clock winds down?
Sure.
I want a dog. And it's been a long time since I found dogs.
Yeah.
I'm a real cat person, and I used to have 3 dogs, but it was years ago. I need tips from you all. What's the best way to open myself up to have the right dog come to me?
I say just intention. And honestly, I would ask the dogs that have passed for you. What is best for me. Help me. Send those to me. Give me that information, or even your cats, because the cats are going to have to get along with the dog.
Then also, oh, sorry, Ginger. Also, from a law of attraction standpoint, start dreaming it into being. Just like, I am so excited to get, I don't know which type of dog. I want a big, huge dog. Like, I love Kathy's Lamberger, or I'm so into little Chihuahuas, or I'm so into little dogs, or I want to rescue an old man, or do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's like envision what you would do with the dog. Like, do you want a dog who's going to lay on your lap every night? Do you want to, and then just kind of see it into being.
It's funny because you're all describing what I would say to somebody if they're like, my next partner, or my next job, or my next move. You just put it on my next pet.
Yeah, but I also love the combination.
But it's the same. Yeah.
The same thing. The combination of dreaming it into being, and also asking all the other guys, hey, help me out here.
Right.
Thank you for those tips. Those are great.
Love that. Ginger, do you have a funny one?
I do. I did a reading, and I've done subsequent readings, but I did a reading for a woman with 2 cats. And it wasn't because she had any issue or anything. It was like, oh, I'd love to know what my cats are saying. So the energy was a little bit higher than some of the people that come in. And so I connect with the first cat that she gave me, and I'm cracking up because he's showing me literally like a catwalk, like a model. And he's posing, and I can hear like the camera click, which you don't even hear today, but I can hear the camera click. And so I tell her, and she cracks up. So she didn't say why, but she said, I totally get it, totally understand. And he was just like kind of fussy. He's showing me himself like in a smoking jacket. I mean, he just had this whole vibe about him. And then I connect with the brother, who they were literally litter mates, and he's like he's rolling his eyes at him, and you can tell he's like the opposite and whatever. So we're laughing through the whole thing. Well, at the end, she said to me, they were 2, I believe they're Himalayans, that she got from a breeder. And so the first one that she took, she was only going to have one initially, was show quality. And that's what he was showing me. People take pictures of me. I'm like, beautiful. And I said to her, and the second one wasn't. She went back from, because she really felt like the first one missed having
Yeah.
a sibling and whatnot. But when I said the second one wasn't like that, she said no. And I said, here's the thing. I'm seeing both of them, and they look the same to me. And she said they are. Like,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be able to tell whatever the things are for show for a dog or cat. I wouldn't know. But to look at them, they look the same. But one was like all boy, and the other one was like, I mean, it was really funny how they
I
came.
love the smoking jacket.
Yeah.
It's so funny now that you share that story. I am going to quickly, because I know we're running out of time here, but I am going to quickly share a reading I did probably 7 years ago, like when I very first started. And it was a woman in Rhode Island, and she wanted me to come to her. She was very adamant about me coming to her home to do the reading. And she had 2 golden retrievers, and one was a perfect angel, and the other drove her crazy and acted obnoxiously and blah, blah, blah. And like the one that was her baby just couldn't do anything wrong, and the other one was just, she had all kinds of issues with. And I showed up, and they were both so obnoxious when I walked in, and she finally got them to calm down somewhat, but she's still talking about the one who's an angel and the other who's just obnoxious and unruly. And I said, here's the thing, I don't see any difference in these 2 dogs.
Right.
Like,
Right.
and it was really before my reading started, but it was just so funny that it's like they're exactly the same.
Right.
And it turned out to be, so much about her and whatever, but it's the same kind of thing. Like, one's show quality and one's not show quality, but they look exactly the same.
Exactly. That's funny. That's great. That is cool.
Oh, this has been great. A lot of fun. Always fun. Always great, Julian, when you come on. And Julian will be back with us again, because we'll be begging her to come back in.
Yeah.
I love being with you.
Talk about whatever. We love
Talk
that.
about whatever.
Yeah.
And we're thrilled that you could join us. And I hope everybody enjoys today's episode the same way that we do. So until next time.
Be well
And be kind.
bye
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.